Well, everyone, after 6 years, it is official. We are getting a new area. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this exciting blog post video. So, it is official that we are getting a new area in 2026, very early 2026, from the predictions that we can now gather. We haven't had an area release since Wildwoods in 2020, and unless you want to consider Devil's Gap a new area, then that was back in 2023, but it's been officially like 6 years since we've had like a new area to explore, and that's absolutely crazy. So, Marchenghast Castle will be the new area, and it will be much different than we've ever had before. A much spookier, darker, medieval type area that will include not only its own lore, but ties to the previous and original Jorvik lore itself, as well as its own story, as most areas already have, as we know. That's not all that's changing. We also got word of the Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur is finally getting a much needed makeover, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive into this blog and take a look at everything. Okay, so obviously there's a ton of concept art for this blog, which you are going to take a look, but that's going to be running in the background as I am talking through the blog post. So let's go ahead and get started on this blog post because I'm really excited to break this down for you guys. I was taking notes the whole time last night, so I have some notes down that we can all talk about and we can theorize a bit. Even though it's a little bit early to theorize, but is it really though? So let's get started. Alright, Marchenghast by Stacy Place, the game director. Hey gang, Stacy here. I am not great at keeping secrets, and I want you all to know what we're hard at work on at the moment. I'm really proud of the team so far and excited to share this early update with you. Earlier this year, I shared we are working on a new area of the game, and it even included a sneaky picture in the exact location. Some of you were able to guess exactly where I was, and a bit about the theme as well. Marchenghast Castle. Alright, so see here we're looking at the Marchenghast Castle. It looks like it's showing you how you'll be able to get in, which to me looks like the original pathway, but I could very well be wrong. Where you might get a landscape change that changes everything on how this place looks. But it looks a lot more vast than what we have in game now, which new areas tend to come with even bigger upgrades and bigger details. So, I mean, this looks incredible and it looks great. So, but yes, this is the early castle exploration by Albin, the concept artist. Very pretty, Albin. I mean, you gotta really admire the work done here. It looks great. Discussions began last year about opening up this area to players. Initially, our thoughts mirrored many players. That was clearly that this was the spot to relocate the medieval content, right? We weighed our options. We could devote our efforts to moving all the existing medieval content over to a new place with a little time to include anything new, or we could do something more, something slightly different. And of course the team desperately wanted to get creative and explore what Marchenghast could be on its own. Alright, so here we have another early castle sketch here by Albin again. So we have like some kind of footnotes. I think this is all in Swedish, so I can't read Swedish, but maybe not. I mean, you gotta admire this concept art. Now, I do want to say concept art really isn't how it will look in game. It's just the idea of how they want to like perceive it, and so far it's looking really, really good. The directors buckled down and figured out what sorts of expectations we had for this project. The experience, the aesthetic, the story we wanted to tell. We continued these discussions in our IP group, which is a constellation of people closely tied to the world of Jorvik. In that group, we're currently reviewing our IP Bible page as part of a much needed review of Stories of Jorvik. However, for some time, our focus was specifically on Marchenghast. We identified a few themes we want to incorporate into our project brief, which would then be used to guide the upcoming brainstorming sessions and workshops with larger groups. I won't go into detail to avoid giving too much away. I'm prone to that. Alright, so here are at least 4 of the subjects that we're talking about. We got creatures and beasts, witches and nobles, meaningful exploration and progression, and engaging lore that ties to the existing world. So that's very interesting. I am going to like get into that once I get through all of this. But this is very interesting to see how they're going with like the witches, the nobles, creatures and beasts, which we've kind of had in terms of like actual animals, but never like true creatures, beasts, like their own made up kind of thing. So that should be very interesting. And even more interesting, think about the magic horses. Think about the magic horses that could come from this area. So just think about that for a second. Things evolved and changed as we continued working, but one overachieving theme remained. We wanted this area to be darker. It was now up to the broader group to figure out what exactly that meant in the world of Star Stable Online. Okay, so here we have a work in progress of concept art from the forest exploration by Matilda. So we can see from the image, obviously there's the horse and the rider. There's these very weird, not weird, but like crooked, wicked, Halloween-y, spooky kind of trees, moss. There's lights on the ground. It almost looks like mushrooms, I want to say. It's kind of hard to tell from this concept art. It could be like a flower of some sort. You have just like all these withered trees, which looks really cool, and looks like there's even some bones on the ground there, which is very interesting. Like maybe a river, even. That might be a river right here. Again, it's concept art. We really shouldn't be, obviously, not being too much into it. I'm just breaking down the concept art for you guys and what we might be expecting. From this point, we brought on more and more people to the project. We held multiple workshops focusing on various areas such as narrative, story, and lore, game design and gameplay, environmental art, and storytelling. The workshops have been enjoyable and inspiring, especially as we are also planning gameplay ideas that are unique to this specific area. Workshops and discussions will continue as the project shifts from investigation to pre-production once everyone returns from their summer vacations. I'm writing this significantly in advance. We believe we have a fantastic foundation for the overall Marchenghast experience. For those working on the project, we'll have a lot of fun bringing life for the players. Okay, so here we have another concept artist by Albin. It looks like different types of buildings. I don't think this is like directly in the castle, but it looks like maybe like a village surrounding it that we will encounter in the wild. Um, but it's really, really cool looking. If you look at this, you can see like different wisps. It looks like a witch's cottage almost, like from New England. If you've ever been to USA, New England, this is what this kind of vibe brings to me and speaks to me. It looks like there's a little stable for your horse over there, almost like a graveyard on the side. So it's very, very interesting. And it looks like it's like the attic was broken into at one point. So it's very interesting how this is all going to come together. So while I'm really struggling to not give you too many spoilers for Marchenghast, I do want to set expectations correctly. We've dreamed big, and scoping down was and will continue to be needed. One thing we know is that this project will focus on the exterior of the castle and the area surrounding it, not the interior at this time. We have ideas for inside the castle, but the outside has evolved into a vast and enticing endeavor on its own. So we believe this is a good way to divide the project. We aim to deliver a complete and fulfilling experience, and adding castle interior would spread us way too thin, undoubtedly hindering the initial outcome. Hopefully, one day in the future, we will get to venture inside the castle too. A key point to note, the area we are creating is not in any way small. The footprint of the castle grounds is city-sized, and we are reclaiming and creating the land to accommodate a blighted forest as well. Wait, did I say blighted? Moving on. Okay, so if you don't know what blighted means, it basically, in this sense of the word, it means essentially a forest that is basically deteriorating. Also, like dying, dead, kind of withering away. But from the images I'm seeing, it also looks like there's some life to it. It looks really cool. So here are some of the images, obviously. We have this one, which is Early Forest Exploration by Matilda. And this is basically showing like a forest path. We have a down log with these mushrooms coming out. We have all this really cool, I think, it almost looks like swamp moss on the trees, which looks awesome. Obviously, you can see like the withering plants on the ground and all these stone paths, which looks very interesting. And obviously these thorn bushes too. I can't tell if those are eyes or it's just meant to be part of the bush, but always fun to speculate. And here we have an early witch hut exploration by Alvin. This looks so cool. I have to tell you guys, it looks, so if we could break down the image a little bit, it looks like it's a witch's hut, but it looks like it's made almost out of a tree, and the roof of the building like turns upward into the forest, which is very interesting. On the top of the roof has like these windows with like, I want to say they're windows, but I don't know. It almost looks like they could be like these pulsating gemstones as well. So that's very interesting to take a look at. Obviously, you have mushrooms in the background. It looks like a little mushroom tree house almost, sorta, is the best way I can describe it right now. You have orbs floating around. You have what's clear, at least clearly to me, you guys can leave your own interpretation in the comments. It looks like that there's some sort of like rune circle outside of the witch's hut. Keep in mind, this is concept art, so it's very much subject to change, but you gotta admit from this concept art, it's dark, it's spooky, it's very mystical in a way, where it's something that the community's wanted for years, and the fact that we're getting this is just incredible. I couldn't care what portion of 2026 this could come out. But finally, the release date. This has been a soft deadline project with an updated expectation to release in February 26th. Could that change? Yes. I want to be clear on this because changes in releases always come with some level of disappointment. That's one of the risks of sharing something so early. There is still plenty of time for change. Ultimately, we strive for a great delivery, happy players, and a healthy experience for the project team. So, what they're basically saying here is that yes, things can change. February 26th is hopefully the date that we might get this big area that they're calling for, but there could be changes. Game designing it's one of the things I chose not to pursue for this reason, because things can just change like that. Very much like life, things can change very instantly. So, as long as it's a great delivery and we're all happy and it's a great experience, I want them to take as much time as they can. But February 2026 could be the potential timeline for this release. Alright, so here we have actually one of the early creatures designs by Matilda. It's this very much woolly, bat-faced, fanged, horned, turtle-like, but fuzzy creature, which is so cool looking. But it has like these spikes on its back, which are really interesting, and these claws are massive, so that's going to be very interesting to see in game if this is one of the creatures we are expecting. So, very, very interesting. Very, very cool. Can't wait to see what other kinds of creatures we will have, but this one is very neat. So we get kind of a sneak peek at one of the potential creatures, because again, this is all this concept art, and could change. It very much could change. Well, while the team is gearing up to dive into production, I've got my eyes plotting the next adventure. I'm bundling up in warmer clothes, riding down a rickety elevator to the land of ice and snow. Hopefully, anyway, because again, I'm probably saying too much too early. Plans can and do change. Thanks for your time and enjoy your adventure beyond the gates of Marchenghast. So, this is interesting, and I don't think anyone noticed this at all. Dino Valley is set next for, well, I shouldn't say next because we could get another area before this, for a complete revamp as well, a complete remakeover. So that's quite big news. I'm shocked no one really picked up on it, but we do have a couple more images here that I do want to just share with you guys and talk about. And then we can kind of go into my notes of what I found interesting and talk a little bit about Dino Valley and when that could potentially be coming. So, alright, so this is one of the castle turrets by Albin, which is beautiful. It's obviously more detailed. It's very rustic. Definitely look like it's seen some wear and tear. But again, this is all concept art. So obviously subject to change. Obviously, once they go into production with this, we have these beautiful window sketches by Albin again that are showing what the castle windows look like. I really like the one in the middle, even though that's probably too complicated, so I would maybe say this one next to it on the right here. So, but I would love to see this one with like stained glass. That would be cool. And then we have another sketch by Alvin, which is like the castle entrance. And what I find interesting is, and I'm pretty sure this is just theory and speculation, who is this rider? I don't think that's supposed to be us, unless it's just like concept art, but it definitely makes you think of potential magic courses. Maybe Galloper has a tie, a Galloper Thompson for Halloween has a tie. It's all just really cool speculation stuff to take note on. that's the big news. This is so exciting. Not only Marchenghast, but the fact that Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur is set for a future remake is huge. Huge news. But, I mean, we've wanted a spooky, dark area for so long. Very different from the colorful Jorvik that we've known for so many years. This is going to be incredible. I can already tell it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to dive into it, and I hopefully you guys are just as excited as I am. But this is going to be fun. I can already tell. I am excited for 2026. Especially because we haven't had a new area. It's such a big deal. It's so fun. Those videos are so fun to make, and now that I'm more experienced doing this, it is going to be such a cool adventure. So let's get into the notes that I wrote down. So obviously I'm just going to kind of just spitball and read the notes off as I go. But, so, here's the thing. While the idea of the medieval area being relocated to Marchenghast, obviously they decided to keep the medieval area currently residing in Forgotten Fields, at least for now. Obviously, everyone thought that obviously it would be moved to Marchenghast once we did have that area, but unfortunately that's going to take away from what Star Stable could really bring to the table for Marchenghast. It's one more thing to do that instead they could make it into something a little bit more different and something a little bit more fun, which honestly, I'm okay with this. I'm actually okay with this. Plus, it gives new lore for the medieval area, and we could get more houses. There's more ideas that can come with that area. I'm okay with the medieval area being in Forgotten Fields. That's not an issue for me. But as of right now, what Star Stable is saying is that the medieval area that's in Forgotten Fields is going to stay there. They're going to, obviously Marchenghast is going to be medieval style, but a lot different. It's going to be spooky. It's going to be dark. There's going to be witches, stories of witches and nobles and creatures, and all sorts of things. Can you imagine the magic horses that could come out of this? Oh, the possibilities. The possibilities. I'm excited. Alright, so Marchenghast and the area surrounding will obviously be focused in Jorvik lore, which is great. But Marchenghast will obviously hold its own original lore itself, which I think that's just as important as being directly focused into Jorvian lore. Obviously we want the story to be original and not necessarily follow Jorvian lore completely, but what Star Stable is going to do is obviously have its own story, have its own lore. Stories we haven't experienced yet. So there's so much potential with new areas. I'm very excited to see how this story unfolds. Now that being said, the main focus for Marchenghast Castle are the creatures and beasts, the witches and nobles, meaningful exploration and progression, engaging lore that ties to the existing world. One of the big things is creatures and beasts. Now, in terms of, obviously, we have horses. Obviously. We also really haven't had any other, made up type of animals. We've had, stories of, ghost stories of, what is it? I think it's, a grizzly bear, that's, not a normal grizzly bear, that said to roam, Redwood Point and, Wild Woods, or, some sort of creature there. But we've never really dove into, creatures and beasts. We have, squirrels and deer and, foxes and cats and dogs. We've never really gone into, creatures and beasts. Think about the pet options this could bring. And while obviously now we have dragons. Dragons were the first I'm going to say it's the original beasts here. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Because dragons were kind of the first mythical kind of beast. Well, no, that's actually not true. We've actually had panda rays from Pandoria. Aside from the panda rays, the dragons, we really haven't had creatures and beasts. Just hasn't been a thing. The fact that we are going to dive into that is very interesting. So now for the witches and nobles. Obviously, we know Jorvik is home to witches. We have Mrs. Holdsworth. We have, obviously, the druids in Valedale. We have, obviously, the witches in Devil's Gap. We have Pie the Witch in Golden Hills Valley. We know that there's witches all throughout Jorvik. That's just Jorvik. Forgive me, my brain's just not wanting to compute with all this information. But what's interesting is the nobles. Now, in theory, Star Stable could follow the medieval houses that we've gotten from the medieval era, but I don't think they will. I think we're gonna see something a little bit different because more so the medieval area is built on a roleplay aspect. So I don't know if these houses are real or will be added into like the Marchenghast lore. But if so, that would be very interesting. So meaningful exploration and progression. I think I can attribute to this is nothing like we've had before, but maybe the closest thing in my recent memory that I can remember is something maybe similar but better than what we had as a Hollow Woods release. As you guys remember, we had like tons to explore. We had lots of things to progress with obviously runeology and light gathering and all that fun stuff. So that's very interesting to take note of and kind of like think. I almost want to say, now I'm making a theory here. I don't have this information, but I'm talking about theory wise. That maybe we go out and like find these creatures and study them, and somehow there's a progression to like this big book of like creatures that you can find in the woods, or maybe why forest is so blighted. There's so many options that Star Stable can go with this, so I'm absolutely ecstatic. I can't wait. But engaging lore that ties to the existing world. Obviously, not all of it is going to be completely tied, but yes, there obviously should be some ties to what we already have. Because otherwise, it kind of creates kind of a loophole, and then we're making theories forever and ever and ever, and nothing's ever really solved. So, I like that they're going to make lore that ties into the existing world. That's great. So, in terms of the ongoing workshops, they all point to an area that will just not only have its own lore, its own story, its environment, but its own gameplay exclusive to the area itself. Very much like I said, like kind of like Wildwoods, but more so Hollowwoods, Valedale area. That'll obviously be exclusive to there. That's why I have a hunch, like we get to help the witches and the creatures. That sort of type of progression system I think would be really cool. I don't think it's going to be exactly like Hollowwoods. I think Hollowwoods was just a stepping stone to learn on. And obviously we will our own information once that update comes out, but I don't think it's going to completely follow what Hollowwoods did. Even though what Hollowwoods had was fantastic, and the paths with the druids was wonderful in doing all of that, and that took quite a while to do, but I think Hollowwoods was just a stepping stone, so I wouldn't put too much credence in thinking that they will follow that path. I think that, again, it was a stepping stone, they learned from it, took what they could from it, and we'll get something completely different. So, that being said, but anyway, this area obviously is going to be a huge undertaking. Obviously, it will unfold as time goes on from the previous release date, which is now the soft release date, which is a soft deadline. Obviously, room for change would be February 2026. This, again, could change if things become too technical, things need to be changed, bugs, glitches, these things happen. But February 2026, so I'm gonna say, honestly, theory-wise, anywhere from February to maybe summer. Summer at the latest is what I would say, but it could be even later than that. And honestly, if it is, all I care is that Star Stable makes it as good as they can. But obviously, one thing I do want to just note here is that we're not going to get everything at once, per se. Obviously, we'll get the area and whatnot, but obviously there will be updates coming in the future. We'll probably have like a whole, I'm assuming we're probably going to have like a whole month dedicated to it, and then as time goes on, we'll get more updates with the area. But this is very exciting regardless. So obviously the main focus will be the area surrounding Marchenghast Castle and the exterior. The interior of the castle will be a later future release. Well, they obviously want to make it so we can explore inside the castle and explore like maybe some of the buildings inside, but that's not planned right now because they want to give us the best experience outside of, well, pretty much they want to give us the experience of the area, not just inside. Inside will obviously be a later project, but right now this is what they're planning to do, which is just have the exterior and Marchenghast Castle, which I'm totally fine with. But like I said, while now we know Marchenghast Castle will arrive sometime in 2026, we should expect a revamp of the Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur makeover to fit into the current Jorvik landscape, because that's still, obviously, certain areas are still being revamped. But I think Star Stable is at a place now where they're okay with opening new areas, as they should be, because they've done little things here and there. Obviously, I want to say, just off the top of my head, I'd say about 75, maybe 80% of what we currently have is essentially revamped. Obviously, we have, like, Epona could use a revamp, maybe. That's up to interpretation. Obviously, Jarlaheim. But I think Star Stable is at a place now where they're more comfortable releasing areas again, which is absolutely great. We want to see more of the map. We want more story. So I'm very excited to see where this all leads. I think it's going to be incredible. So, but that's pretty much all my notes that I have. But the Hidden Valley of the Dinosaur was definitely not expected, and I don't think everyone realized that was mentioned, because obviously the news of Marchenghast Castle being the next new area was obviously the big deal, but the fact that the Hidden Valley of the Dinosaur is expected to receive a makeover at some time, granted, things can change, but to know that could be coming as well is very exciting. And obviously, I think they're okay with doing that now, having the Winter Village and having snow in Jorvik. They've been able to test that out. And I think that they can make something really cool out of the Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur. And who knows, maybe this will even lead us to what happened with the Coulters. Think about that. Alright, you guys, so that is pretty much it for this very exciting announcement about Marchenghast Castle coming in 2026. I hope you guys enjoyed this little post breakdown. Yes, there's obviously Halloween information too. We are going to get into that in another video that's coming up probably after this. It'll probably come out like an hour or two after this. But this is such exciting news, and it's just incredible to think we're going to be able to explore Marchenghast, and it's going to be a vastly different world than we've ever had in Star Stable, and I am so ready for it. I am ready for dark and spooky and creatures and beasts and witches and nobles. I'm all in for it, and I hope you guys are too. I do want to make note of this again, that All of this was concept art, not what it's actually going to look like in game. So that's very important to note. But this is going to be such a fun adventure, and I cannot wait to share it with you all. Obviously, as Star Stable gives us updates and theories and spoilers, I obviously will be able to be here and talk to you guys about it. So please let me know what your theories and wishes are for Marchenghast Castle. Oh, but there is one more thing I forgot to mention. So I did find out. If you guys were hoping for a home stable in Marchenghast Castle, that was spilled by Stacy. So here's that little exciting news right there to share with you guys. So I knew you guys would be excited to know if there's going to be a home stable, and there will be. So very, very exciting news that we'll be able to stay there at I don't know if it'll be Marchenghast Castle exactly. But it looks like we will be able to have a home stable there. Maybe we'll even be able to have one in the woods. You never know. But it's all very, very exciting. So, yeah, that is pretty much it from you guys. Let me know again what your wishes, what your theories are for Marchenghast Castle. I want to hear all of it and how excited you are for 2026. Because I am so excited, as well as the possibility of Dinosaur Valley being revamped and remodeled to what Star Stable currently is now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and can't wait to read it and talk about it with you guys. So, yeah, that is pretty much it from me. So, as always, you guys, remember to keep positive. Happy trails, everyone. I will see you in the next video. Bye!